I was the middle child, dark-skinned, tall and skinny. All in a society where girls were judged on their skin tone, beauty, calmness and homeliness. But I was never deprived as a girl of being able to learn more, study harder, or prove myself alongside the smartest kids in our midst.
I'm going all the way up. I'm going all the way up.
At IIM Calcutta, we were outliers, the first generation of women to enter professional management schools in the world of business in any number. We knew we were on the cusp of something bigger. I'd never been part of anything like it. I wanted a job at the Boston Consulting Group, BCG. After a series of 6 or 7 tough interviews, I got the coveted offer. This episode in my life underscores how paid leave to get through all kinds of personal situations can be a game changer for so many careers. In many ways, it's only when you have experienced this benefit yourself that you can truly realize its critical importance. On the CEO floor of PepsiCo when I arrived, no one was expected to be a deeply engaged parent, let alone a great mother and wife. I was well aware that I was an outsider. I worked and worked and worked. I'd go home at night, take a shower, put on my flannel nightgown to show the girls I wasn't leaving, put them to bed, and sit up reading mail and reviewing documents until 1 or 2 a.m. To succeed among the ideal workers, I had to be one myself. I was a dreamer and a doer, and I could paint a vivid picture of the future for PepsiCo and lead people to deliver on that vision. When I walked into the building as CEO on October 2nd, 2006, I was catapulted into the wider public eye. I was the 11th female CEO in the Fortune 500. I decided the way forward was to rethink the company under the umbrella Performance with Purpose. This was my opus. We would deliver excellent performance, as was expected for PepsiCo, but would add 3 imperatives to our work ahead: nourish, replenish, cherish. The best run, most successful companies in the coming decades will be those that demonstrate the most foresight on people matters. The next act in my life, fueled by my great sense of purpose, is to do all I can to elevate and support those people and organizations who have long recognized care as fundamental to our common good and have been working tirelessly to develop great ideas and move them to real life and implementation. I am convinced this will relieve the stress on young people around building families and will help women advance, including rising to run our companies.
Indra was selected for the 2022 IDEA because of her career achievement in leading PepsiCo to sustained corporate growth and success.
As a young woman, immigrant, and a person of color myself pursuing a career in business, having someone like Indra here who has achieved much success in our business community is truly inspiring.
Having a woman of color in power just shows how representation can have a huge impact on an organization.
I find it so inspiring to hear stories like Indra's, in which her strength and resilience have helped her break through glass ceilings and create a better future for women and people of color in the industry.
It's her relentless dedication to changing our business culture so that all the women coming after her won't feel like they have to choose between being successful at work and fulfilled with their families.
I probably learned more from Indra than she learned from me.
But she also brought to the center of the conversation the importance of balancing performance with purpose. We know, of course, now, with the challenges the world faces, how relevant this was and how far ahead of the time she was.
I want to give a huge congratulations to Indra Nooyi on being selected as the 2022 IDEA recipient.
Well, as you all know, the smartest people in the room are always women, and this CV proves it. Ms. Yaffe has held several positions in film and television in Canada since the 1980s, including Chief Executive Officer and Chief Operating Officer of Alliance Atlantis Communications, Inc., and Chief Executive Officer of Alliance Atlantis Broadcasting, and this just keeps rolling. Most recently, she served as Consul General to New York for the Government of Canada from September 2016 through 2019. In addition to serving as the chair of the board of Cineplex Entertainment, she currently serves on the board of directors and is the chair of the Human Resources Committee for Blue Ant Media, a privately held Canadian media company, and serves as the chair of the board of directors for Baycrest Health Sciences. Ms. Yaffe has previously served on the boards of Lionsgate Entertainment Corporation, the Torstar Corporation, and Astral Media, Inc. In 1999, Ms. Yaffe was selected as the Canadian Women in Communications Women of the Year and received the Lifetime Achievement Award from Women in Film and Television in 2000. In 2006, she was included in the Women's Executive Network's list of Canada's 100 most powerful women. And in 2007, she was inducted into the Canadian Association of Broadcasters Hall of Fame. In 2015, she was honored as a recipient of the Order of Canada. As volunteer, Ms. Yaffe has previously served as chair on the board of directors of Women Against Multiple Sclerosis and as a chair of the board of governors of the Ryerson University. Ms. Yaffe is an alumnus of the University of Manitoba and received an honorary doctorate from the University of Manitoba in 2013. Please join me in giving a warm welcome for Phyllis Yaffe.
Thank you for that introduction. It is a true honor for me to be here today to talk about my friend, Indra Nooyi. Indra's name was very familiar to me before I met her. A female CEO of a Fortune 50 company was definitely someone I wanted to get to know. But like everyone else, even though I had been the CEO of a publicly traded, successful Canadian film and television company and was then the Consul General of Canada in New York, Indra Nooyi was intimidating. After all, she ran one of the 50 largest companies in the US, and not just any company. PepsiCo is an iconic company. She was an immigrant to the US who had made her way up the very steep corporate ladder, and she was one of the longest serving CEOs in her industry or in any other. No wonder I was intimidated. And then I met her. I had the good fortune to be included in a meeting of CEOs when Prime Minister Trudeau came to New York to discuss the future of NAFTA. As I recall, there were about 10 people at the head table, and Indra was the only woman there. I remember thinking, it doesn't really matter what level of business or government or civil society you are at. Being the only woman at the table must feel just as awkward and frustrating. But I remember clearly Indra held her own. After the meeting, I worked up my courage and I approached her. And then I realized she was not at all intimidating. She was gracious and friendly, and we got on immediately. After the meeting, unique mementos of the gathering were created for each participant, and it fell on me to deliver Indra's to her. I was delighted because it gave me another chance to spend time with her. I waited for the gift to arrive, but the day before I was to deliver it, it had still not appeared. In a panic, I had had my team contact Ottawa to find out how it had been sent to New York. The good news was it was through Purolator, and I had a good relationship with the CEO of Purolator on Long Island. I placed an urgent call to him, and he promised to get right back to me. A few hours later, I learned it had been signed for at another office building in Midtown Manhattan. But with the help of the CEO, it appeared magically in my hands the night before my meeting with Indra. Till this very moment, I believe she was blissfully unaware of how important it was to me that she receive her memento of Canada. After that meeting, I knew that the Indra Nooyi you will all understand tonight. I knew her as an astute businesswoman, but also as a devoted mother, wife, and daughter. I knew her as a woman who cares about the issues of being a woman in the business world, and who has dealt personally with all the common concerns women at work continue to face today. Paid leave, flexibility, care for children and elders are issues she has dealt with in her own life. Indra sees these issues as urgent if our society is truly to benefit from the full participation of women. These are not just theoretical issues for Indra. For those who have read her book, or perhaps heard her tell the story of the night she became president, you will know that she has never lost sight of her family responsibilities, and she has never stopped appreciating the opportunities her family has given her. Not long after we met, I invited Indra to be the keynote speaker at a conference in New York hosted by the Consulate General of Canada, the Consulate of France, and the Economic Club of New York. She was spectacular. She sat comfortably in her chair, and she shared her stories with the 300 assembled business leaders of New York. She affirmed her commitment to diversity and empowerment of women while making everyone comfortable with the careful but important steps they should take to make equity a part of their work. She won the whole room over quickly with the same grace and humor I am sure you will hear tonight. The last time I saw Indra, we talked again about the world for women at work. But this time, she was also keen to talk about building the economy of her home state, Connecticut. The governor, Ned Lamont, had asked her to co-chair an economic development task force for the state, and she had eagerly taken it on. You see, Indra, like many people who come to Canada or the US, is able to see clearly how wonderful our countries are and how much better they can be. She's able to give back to the family, the industry, and the country that gave her so much. And it is that giving person that I am so pleased to call my friend. I think you will all feel like a friend of Indra's after tonight. Indra, welcome to Winnipeg, my hometown.
Thank you, Phyllis, for providing extraordinary insight into Indra's brilliance and achievements as a luminary business person. It is also a tremendous honor to have such an accomplished member of the business community with us tonight. Phyllis, we are grateful for your presence. Thank you. It is now time for this evening's key moment, the presentation of the 2022 IDEA Medallion. I was going to run off with it, but decided no. Presenting the award this evening will be the President of the University of Manitoba, Dr. Michael Benarosh. Michael's contributions and career have left a lasting mark on post-secondary education in our communities, thanks to his contributions to the University of Winnipeg, the Ryerson University, and of course, the University of Manitoba, where he was Dean of the I.H. Asper School of Business. Michael became the President of the University of Manitoba in 2020 as the pandemic unfolded. He immediately began guiding the institution to one of its most complex challenges in its 145-year history. I'm pleased to introduce the 12th President and Vice Chancellor of the University of Manitoba, Dr. Michael Benarosh.
Thank you so much for those kind words. I feel like this stage should rotate so that everybody can see us as we're going. So we can always improve on it. So it's really such an honor to be here and to be part of this great event. I had the privilege to do this many times as Dean of the school. But this evening, it's an honor to present the award to Indra Nooyi, someone I deeply admire, respect, and learn from. Miss Nooyi showed the world how important it is to change and how we define leadership, and to welcome diverse voices and experiences at the most senior levels. As CEO of PepsiCo, as we've heard today, she led meaningful change that demonstrated her commitment to lowering carbon outputs and environmental impacts, promoting health and wellness initiatives, and as we learned this morning when she spoke to the students, the importance of community and care. She brought these principles and values to one of the largest corporations of the world, pushing them forward before they were mainstream concepts. The pandemic has exposed the weaknesses in our systems, and she has challenged us to recognize the value of caregiving and ensure that we build meaningful supports in our workplaces and our societal structures. When I joined the university as president 2 years ago, I had many, many ideas, and COVID had completely different plans, moving us in a direction that we could have never expected. And we've all learned through COVID to be flexible and to adjust. But what I've observed and learned in our institution in the last 2 years is that progress has never stopped, and that our contributions to the Manitoba economy continue to grow. One of the things I'm really proud about is that almost every day when I pick up the paper or listen to the radio, I hear a U of M professor commenting on something, on reconciliation, on COVID, on Ukraine, on peace in the world, on advances of healthcare. And I'm really proud of the way we have taken on our community role. For reconciliation, we've been working with the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation to prosper and grow on our campus. And soon, we'll be building a home for the National Center of Truth and Reconciliation on our campus. For healthcare as a human right, we've been helping partners around the globe, particularly in India. We've made monumental steps forward in child and maternal health, and the life-saving work has been achieved through community support and a recent $87 million US investment by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in our medical school. For climate change research, we've responded to the climate crisis and led the country in understanding Canada's next frontier, the Canadian Arctic. The Centre for Earth Observation Science and the Churchill Marine Observatory are two of the examples of how we've led in this initiative. And lately, we've introduced Idea Start in the University of Manitoba, an initiative to support entrepreneurial thinking throughout our campuses. We want to create a world where everyone can find a way to flourish, where they can grow up healthy and receive supports so that they can blaze their own trails or walk down and extend the paths of their role models, like tonight's honoree created. Leaders like Miss Nooyi inspire us to think big and to act boldly. Before her illustrious career, Miss Nooyi grew up in Madras, India, with her extended family, reading Charles Dickens with her adored grandfather. In grade 10, I've learned, inspired by the Beatles, she briefly had a band called Log Rhythms, a trailblazer even back then. They were the first all-female group in Madras. She earned an MBA from the India Institute of Management in Calcutta, and then she went on to study at the Yale School of Management. Upon graduating, she balanced a growing career with her family and led global firms such as Motorola and the Boston Consulting Group. She continues her relationship with Yale University today, endowing a chair in public health and advising Yale through the years in various roles. And I commend and thank you for your commitment to higher education. In short, Indra Nooyi is a visionary, something we all need to be more of. Since 1984, the Associates of the Asper School of Business have presented the International Distinguished Entrepreneur Award to honor leaders who have achieved outstanding entrepreneurial and business success and who have made an exemplary contribution to the global economic life. Those who have received this award include some of the greatest minds in business, and today we are honored to add Ms. Nooyi to this eminent list. Many celebrate her great accomplishments, including our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, who sent us this letter to be read tonight, and it reads as follows. Dear Ms. Nooyi, I am pleased to extend my warmest greetings and congratulations to you as you are presented with the University of Manitoba's 2020 International Distinguished Entrepreneur Award. This prestigious award pays tribute to some of the most distinguished entrepreneurs of our time. Your outstanding business achievements, fueled by a strong work ethic, a passion to succeed, and a commitment to making a difference, make you most deserving of this special recognition and will no doubt inspire a new generation of young entrepreneurs. I would like to join everyone in attendance in commending you for your many contributions to Canada and the world. Please accept my best wishes for a memorable evening and for every happiness in the years to come. Sincerely, the Right Honorable Justin P.J. Trudeau. Distinguished guests, please welcome the 2020 International Distinguished Entrepreneur Award recipient, Indra Nooyi.
Ladies and gentlemen, Indra Nooyi.
So the plaque citation, the University of Manitoba has conferred upon Indra Nooyi the International Distinguished Entrepreneur Award in recognition of her exemplary leadership of global organizations, outstanding achievement in entrepreneurial and corporate endeavors, and admirable pursuit of greater good for society at large, given at Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, this third day of May 2022. I would also like to now present you with the IDEA Award itself, a pure gold medal exclusively produced and certified by the Royal Mint. The medal is considered to be one of the most treasured metal coins in the world, with only 39 created thus far.
Thank you.
Everyone, the IDEA 2020 recipient, Indra Nooyi. They would like a picture with this.
Thank you, Michael. It's a beautiful medal. Good evening, everyone. You know, I want to finish Phyllis Yaffe's speech because she stopped about 80% of the way there before I get into talking about this medal and this award. Do you want to know what the memento was that she was carrying? Does anybody want to know? Inquiring minds want to know? It was a picture of me and Justin Trudeau. Signed to me personally by Justin Trudeau. Now, when you enter my office in Greenwich, Connecticut, the first thing you'll see is this picture of me and Justin Trudeau. He is the most popular prime minister in my corner of Greenwich, Connecticut. Not that it counts for anything, but I'm very proud of that picture. So, Phyllis, thank you. The second thing that Phyllis didn't tell you was we went to lunch at a restaurant on Greenwich Avenue, which is the main shopping drag in our town of Greenwich. And we're sitting down having lunch. We come out of the restaurant, and Phyllis gets excited. She goes, there is Lululemon, that's a Canadian company. There is Artesia, that's a Canadian company. Here's Club Monaco, that's also Canadian. TD Bank, that's also Canadian. You live in little Canada. So now, every time I walk down Greenwich Avenue, all that I can do is think about you, Phyllis, and the fact that I don't live in Greenwich, Connecticut. I live in little Canada. So I just want you to know, I come here as a representative of another Canadian town, Greenwich, Connecticut. But with that aside, please give my best to Justin Trudeau. I love him. Don't tell my husband this. Good evening and thank you. It's a distinct privilege to be here and to be honored this way. I am deeply touched. You know, over the past 2 days, the IDEA Committee and the University of Manitoba have graciously shown me around the campus and the community that surrounds it. I am truly grateful for that opportunity and will cherish it for many, many years. As I reflected on IDEA, it became clear to me that since this award was introduced in 1984, it has become an example of exemplary leadership or entrepreneurship. The simplest definition of an entrepreneur is the owner or manager of a business enterprise who, by risk and by initiative, attempts to make profits. The owner or manager of a business enterprise who, by risk and by initiative, attempts to make profits. I think it has to mean more than that. I think an entrepreneur is a man or woman of action. In A Brief History of Entrepreneurship, the author Joe Carlin points out that until the term entrepreneur began to enjoy usage outside of France, the word in common usage was really adventurer. In fact, to be an entrepreneur is to go on an adventure. Carlin reminds us that enterprise has been behind the great seminal movements in history: the invention of money, the development of shipping, the modern computer. I think we're now set to embark on our next big adventure towards a more purposeful form of capitalism. For a long time, I have believed that purpose is integral to the business model of every company and every institution. The character of an enterprise is a reflection of the character of its leaders. The integrity of an enterprise is akin to the integrity of its stewards. And I've tried to embody this belief in all my roles, be it the leader of PepsiCo or the co-chair of the Connecticut's COVID Response Committee. Because in this era, profit primacy alone does not work anymore. Division is on the rise. Existential crises loom large. We need to reinforce trust in all of society's stakeholders if we are to stand a chance. For those reasons, entrepreneurship can no longer be just about extraction of value. It must include creating value. Some of you may know that one of the major issues I'm now working on is the crisis in care, childcare, elder care, and the burden it puts on the shoulders of women and family builders, juggling the competing demands of work and family. That's why I wrote the book, My Life in Full, to shed light on this issue and inform it with my own story. I view this issue as one of the single greatest opportunities
that both public and private enterprise can unite on, embracing value creation for broader society and the individuals who sustain it every day. Lifting up families is just one simple way we can do right by communities we inhabit and serve. So as I wear this honor, I take my commitment to purpose-driven leadership and entrepreneurship more seriously than ever. And I thank the IDEA Committee for underscoring the responsibility with this award. If we all embrace this charge, we can empower the next generations, many of whom study within the halls of this great university, to do the same. We can infuse purpose, character, and integrity into the DNA of our society and the enterprises that define it for decades to come. Thank you to the IDEA Committee, the University of Manitoba, its leadership team, and most importantly to my writer, Lisa Casanauer, who introduced me to the University of Manitoba and told me it was really the best university in the world. And I want to thank all of you here today for making tonight possible. It's an honor and a privilege to come on this adventure with you. Thank you very much.
Now, please welcome to the stage Lisa Casanauer, journalist, writer, and Asper alumnus who collaborated with Indra Nooyi on My Life in Full. She is formerly a senior editor at The Voice of America, working on integrating women into news coverage in 47 newsrooms in 47 languages. Before that, she worked at Bloomberg LP for 22 years as a senior writer, editor, and reporter, covering companies, markets, and Wall Street, and as editor-at-large, headlining Bloomberg's coverage of women in the global economy. Ladies, gentlemen, and distinguished guests, please welcome Lisa Casanauer.
Hello, everyone. It is just a real joy to be here. And I just want to, I wasn't sure if I was going to tell this story, but since I mentioned it to President Benarosh and he seemed interested, I will tell you, as some of you who know me know, my dad ran a company here in Winnipeg called Dominion Malting. And he was an immigrant from Holland. And he joined Dominion Malting in 1957 and worked there for 40 years and left as the leader of that company. And in that time, he was a member of the Associates. And he was the one who brought Dwayne Andreas, who was the head of ADM at the time and had bought his company here as an IDEA award winner. So it is really quite full circle for me to come here and be so proud to bring Indra here as another IDEA award winner. And my dad is 93 and still living on Montrose Street, so he'd be very proud if he could be here. And I also want to say, as some of you who've read the book know, that Indra has a habit of so generously thanking the parents of people who have worked for her. And today we went and visited my parents. So that was really great. Anyway, I also, as you know, I graduated from U of M Commerce in 1988, and I've been this collaborator with Indra, and I just want to also say, welcome for all the welcomes you've had in the last couple of years, last couple of days. It just fills my heart to bring you here, Indra, so.
To Winnipeg.
You're moving to Winnipeg, okay. So we've covered all that. Anyway, now I'm just going to jump right into our conversation here. We've spent these last 2 days in Winnipeg visiting the Human Rights Museum, meeting with women leaders, meeting with students, and I think that you have found that Winnipeg is really remarkable in terms of how its business leadership connects with the community here. And there's no greater example than that, than this dinner tonight, but I want you to tell us more here for this Winnipeg business community that is so caring about this city and this country. Why is it that you that you see the role of companies in society as an agent of change for making a more just world? Because a lot of people don't think of capitalism that way.
Me? Working now. I honestly I think companies have a profound role to play in society because companies are by definition engines of efficiency. You know, because of the nature of being a private enterprise, we have to make change happen rapidly. We have to deliver results. We know how to translate a dream into action and implement it for the long term and the short term. Governments are, you know, useful, but they're also caught up in politics. They're caught up in, divisions. And so they cannot be as efficient as private enterprise. So one of the reasons capitalism works by and large is because private enterprise in its efficiency drives a lot of things. And so I think that partnerships between governments and companies and communities can actually make positive change happen quickly and make a lasting impact. Very often what happens is companies are looked at as the enemy, or government is looked at as the slow, lumbering, bureaucratic giant. But if the two were to come together, agree on what change needs to happen and move the ball forward, I actually believe a lot of change can happen. And for companies themselves, I'll speak as a past CEO, companies can only be successful when societies in which we operate are successful. If societies fail, companies cannot succeed. So we want to see society succeed. And the only way to do that is to work with governments and nonprofit organizations to change whatever needs to be changed. And in today's world where trust in government is so low, people turn to corporate leaders and corporations to say, can you actually effect change for us? And they expect leaders to speak up, and they expect leaders to lean in to make change. So that's why I believe this nexus of the corporate world, government, and I'm not talking just large corporations, small, medium, large-size enterprises, government, and the nonprofit sector have all to come together if we want to create thriving communities. And I think that's what we saw in Winnipeg today.
You've also spoken quite a lot about the duty of care, and that as being something that's connected with what it is to be a business leader. Can you tell us a little more about the root of that idea for you?
Well, going back to the first question, if you truly believe if you are vested in the communities that you're part of, you don't look at these communities as people who provide you tools of the trade, i.e. the talent, or people who provide you the water and the electricity. Rather, you say, these are people who work hard to create a town, a village, whatever, where we are a guest. And then we have to earn the right to be more than a guest. We have to do good things for the community. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Water usage. In many parts of India, which are so water distressed, we had beverage plants that used 2.5 liters of water to make a liter of beverage. I speak for my hometown of Madras. There is no water in that town. If the monsoon fails, for one whole year there's no water, the water is rationed. It's almost unconscionable if a beverage plant in the outskirts of Madras uses 2.5 liters of water to make a liter of Pepsi. So you can look at it two ways and say, hey, my pumps are going deeper into the aquifers. I got there first, so I'm taking all the water. The other way is to look at it is to say, wait a minute, I cannot justify taking this much water to make not a life-saving drug, but a fun-for-you beverage. I have to do something to help this town improve its water table and increase the water in the town so that I can then feel comfortable drawing the water. If you now approach it with a duty of care to society, you'll do what we did in many towns, taught them how to do rainwater harvesting, improved agricultural practices, built check dams, reduced water usage in our plants so that the net effect was a net zero balance of water usage. But it all starts with feeling deep down inside that you feel you have a duty of care to your people, to your communities, to every society you're a part of. It has to come from the inside. Purpose can't be imposed on you. Purpose has to come from inside. And the duty of care comes with purpose. Here, take this.
I just want to, anyway, I won't say it. Further to that, you became the CEO of Pepsi in 2006. And well, many in this room know that, a year and a half later, we were dealing with a massive global financial crisis. And that kind of stemmed from the fact that people had really been going for the money. And I find it always so curious, what was it that inspired you to think about or moved you to think about transforming PepsiCo in the way that you did when it was really a time that others were not thinking this way? Can you tell us a little more about taking on transformation at a time when others weren't doing it, which was very courageous, and also some of the bumps in the road?
Transformations are always difficult. You should never take them on unless you're going to see them through. Because as a leader, if you start a transformation and stop it, the next time you start it, nobody's going to follow you because they'll say, oh, this is a fad. It'll last a year. He or she will drop it. So, when I was taking on the transformation, I had to think about it very, very deliberately for two reasons. If you take on a transformation when you have a burning platform, it's easy because you tell the organization we have a burning platform, the company is in trouble, we are hemorrhaging money, we have to transform. Everybody buys into it. So you can articulate a case for the transformation inside out, which is very easy. In my case, I was looking at the world around me and looking at all the changes. And I was looking at it 10 years out, the big mega trends 10 years out. And what I was seeing was storm clouds. The big mega trends basically said to us that if we didn't start making the changes today, we would run into trouble. And remember, companies are entities that go on forever. They don't last just for 2 or 3 years. They're supposed to go on forever. And in order to future-proof PepsiCo, I embarked on the transformation, which is performance with purpose. Put in the capabilities to transform the portfolio, built a new organization that worried about sustainability issues. So the motivation for doing that was to future-proof the company. Now herein lies the problem. When you're thinking about the future and working back, to make the case to your employees is much harder because people don't see, out ahead, as some of us leaders did. And so investors asked me whether I was a Mother Teresa, why did I have to do this? People questioned whether I was capable of being a CEO. The difference is that our board of directors saw exactly what I was seeing. And they said, this is the right way to run the company, keep doing it, we're going to back you. So the big message is, successful companies, you've got to think outside in. A burning platform company which has big problems, you've got to think inside out. That's much easier than thinking outside in. And you need incredible courage and resilience to see it through. I can tell you, between the financial crisis, which almost knocked us off our perch, to a couple of activist investors who tried to sort of meddle with our company, it was tough. But at the end of the day, the strategy was clear, the board was behind us, we were going to do this no matter what. And I think that was the right path forward for the company.
So I want to fast forward to right now, because some people in this room may be thinking about how to add purpose to their companies. And what we now have is this template of ESG. What do you think of ESG as a concept and as how that is going now for business leaders?
You know, the problem with ESG is that I think it's wonderful that ESG exists, but people have sort of put it down to metrics. That's not what it is. If you really go down to each individual metric within ESG, and you're not supposed to adopt all of them, you've got to pick those that are relevant to your industry and your company. If you really pick the right metrics from ESG, you'll realize that executing on every one of those ESG metrics is in many ways de-risking your company, future-proofing your company. If you don't focus on diversity, you're not going to have enough talent to grow the company. If you don't have human rights in the supply chain, At some point in that country in which you're operating where there's no human rights, the supply chain, they're going to come back and attack you. If you start dumping chemicals into rivers because it's somebody else's problem, one day you're going to have to pay for cleanup. So if you really look at the environmental social governance goals very carefully, they are a way to de-risk the company, but more importantly, when you de-risk the company, you're actually creating shareholder value. So the thing I would urge everybody is to reframe ESG as a value-creating or a non-value destructing sort of an approach, as opposed to saying, oh my God, the ESG police are here again. What do we do about this? When you approach it that way, it's lethal because nobody will do anything with it. Worse, you know what will happen? Large companies will appoint an ESG metrics group away from the main company and say, just take care of these metrics, just to keep those guys at bay. We'll just keep doing business the way we've always done it. And that'll give ESG a very bad name.
The talent piece of your transformation of PepsiCo was incredibly important to you, and I know the most maybe emotional of the transformation. Let's talk a little bit about talent right now. There's a labor shortage. There's you know, a lot of hangover, if you will, from the COVID era around how from COVID about how we are looking at the future of work, at talent, at retaining talent. That gets us to women, which you and I have spent many hours talking about. What do you think is standing in the way of a more kind of watershed of just seeing women, seeing diverse employees rising into leadership in a faster way? What is keeping us, since we all agree that this seems like a great idea, we talk about it all the time, what is really keeping it so slow?
Well, let's separate the issues. I think if you're really talking about the great resignation, lack of talent, of which women and female talent is a piece of it. So let's zoom out a bit and talk more broadly. People think we just don't have enough people. The fact is we have enough bodies, we don't have enough talent. Two different issues. We don't lack for people to do the work. We don't have the right people for the right jobs. And it falls in three buckets. The first is there are many, many jobs in the care economy, whether it's childcare, senior care, nursing care, that are going a-begging today. They're unfilled. People are going through tremendous mental stress. They can't deal with the hours. They can't deal with the abuse in that system in many cases. And many of these jobs don't pay well. And so they're saying, can't do it. The mental stress is too much. It just puts too much pressure on me, and they're quitting in large numbers. That does not bode well for society because society is aging. And if we don't attract more people into these care jobs, I shudder to think about how we're going to take care of our aging people and our children. So we have to rethink how we approach care fundamentally end-to-end. So that's the first bucket where we have a problem. It's a looming problem, and for some reason, I put it number 1, and many people put it like number 10. In a list of 3, they put it number 10, okay? The second problem we have is we have to embark on the greatest reskilling in the history of our countries, something we haven't done. Because there's a massive shift going on to digital technologies, the knowledge economy, and we have a huge base of people who are not reskillable, because they haven't had big STEM training in their high school and college, and they've engaged in traditional manufacturing jobs which may not come back, and nobody knows how to reskill them for the digital economy, for the knowledge economy of the future. How we're going to do the great reskilling for the future, I don't know. I believe we may have lost a generation, and we've just got to figure out what to do with the lost generation and pick up their children to reskill them today for what's needed in the future. The third bucket is a big, big issue. We have new technology areas that are emerging constantly. We're going through the world's greatest disruption. talent is in short supply for these new areas. And this is where the great race to corner all the talent around the world and the role of immigration plays a big part. Wherever you see talent in these highly specialized areas, grab them and hold on to them. I mean, the example I'll give you is in Guilford, Connecticut, we have a company called Butterfly IQ that makes portable, ultrasound machines, the Tesseract machine to, study the eye, all kinds of nifty inventions. They were working in some esoteric area of COVID testing, and they wanted some scientists they'd hired from Stanford, but the visa expired, and these people had to go back to France. The guy was in a tizzy. He was running from pillar to post because there wasn't anybody else who was trained like these two guys from France to fill those jobs. To me, it's a no-brainer. As a country, we have to hold on to these people. So there are lots of specialized, quantum computing is an example. There are 5 quantum computing centers in North America. If that's going to be the next frontier, we ought to be finding every quantum computing person we can lay our hands on and say, our doors are open for you. Instead, I think many countries are going backwards. Not Canada, but many other countries are going backwards. So we have 3 problems we have to address. The first is the care economy, which is our backbone service. Pay them well, make it aspirational, bring young people into those jobs. The second is the great reskilling. The third is, grabbing all the talent you can for the industries of the future. And how we think about these in a nuanced way and make it happen is going to be the single biggest challenge for governments and companies.
For our final question, I want to talk about where women fit into that whole picture of the future of the economy and of the future of talent and how companies look at talent. You have a lot of great data on women graduating, on women being part of the future of how we look at filling every job out there. What's the message to this audience for how we should be looking at this particularly strong population of women in the next generation?
I honestly believe talent is going to be the single biggest competitive advantage for companies, for societies, for governments, state, federal, whatever. And if talent is going to be the single biggest source of competitive advantage, we have to stop saying it's got to be talent of a certain kind that is a source of advantage. Rather, draw the talent from the entire pool. And if you really say, I'm going to be gender blind, ethnicity blind, orientation blind, whatever, just look at people for what talent they can offer you, what skills they can offer you. I think the makeup of the organization will be very different. That speaks to diversity. Diversity not because you're doing it as a favor to somebody, diversity because you're thinking like an economist and saying, I want to corner the best and brightest talent. The problem is we bring that talent in, and for some reason, we put so many barriers in front of them, especially women, minorities. There are umpteen examples of unconscious bias that we practice on them, little realizing that when you do that to this group of diverse people that have come in, it impacts their confidence, which then impacts their competence. At a point when you've hired them for your competence, okay, so the reason you've hired them is spend money to hire them, now you don't give them the support, you don't make them feel included to be able to produce the best for the company. That's a terrible doom loop. So I think we have to fix the environment in organizations to make it easier for these people to stay involved and give the job their best. And I think men in power, men occupy most of the seats of power even today. I think men in power have to come to the table and say, at least, let me put it this way, the men who have got their eyes opened to this talent question have got to come together as a group and say, let's speak to the business associations in Canada or whichever country and make the case for gender blind, ethnicity blind, whatever blind, talent selection. And let's model the behavior ourselves to bring the talent and make them feel included so that we can retain them. And, look, the onus is not just on the men, it's also on the women. But if you look at the positions of power, 80% of them are held by men. And my simple request to all the men is, and I use my husband as an example, if my daughters, and I have 2 daughters, if they came home, one of them, and they say, you know, Mom and Dad, today I was speaking in the office, I was making a point in a meeting, and these guys started to talk over me. And I couldn't finish my point, I'm mad like hell. Do you know what my husband's first reaction is? Who's that guy? I want to punch him out. That's the first reaction. I'm sure every father in this room will feel that way if your daughter walked in and said that. My only point is, every woman that works in your company or companies you deal with is somebody's daughter, somebody's wife, somebody's sister, niece, whatever. Treat them with the same respect that you would your daughter. And if you did that, work environments will get better, your talent base will become more expanded, and you'll derive the best out of them. That would be an equitable society and live up to those wonderful lines as I entered the Human Rights Museum about equality for everybody.
Thank you so much. I need to get a picture with you. Congratulations, Indra. It has been a privilege and an honor for our community to have such an outstanding recipient of the International Distinguished Entrepreneur Award with us tonight. Lisa and Indra, sincerest thanks for your presentation. I know that you've inspired us all in the room this evening, and I'm sure that those who've yet to read her book, you are looking forward to learning more about our IDEA recipient and her fascinating story. On behalf of the associates, I want to express my warmest thanks to all of you for participating in tonight's celebration, and a special thanks to everyone who traveled from far and other cities to be here with us this evening. It is truly remarkable to bring together so many members of the business community and the University of Manitoba communities together. By being here tonight, you are helping to ensure the next generation of Manitoba's business leaders has access to excellent education right here in Winnipeg. I also want everybody to note that the flowers on your tables, we're donating them to Flower Philanthropy, where the volunteers will repurpose the flowers and deliver them to healthcare centers, hospitals, and personal care homes. Thank you to the 32 generous partners for making this event possible, the associates and the young associates who've come together to support the school, the IDEA committee led by Arnie Thorsteinson, whose time and effort ensure this event is a success every year. Thank you, Mr. Thorsteinson. Also want to thank the Jonathan Alexiot Quartet for their melodic music, the University of Manitoba President's Office and the External Relations Office, in particular the MCO led by Paul LeCap for their support they received leading up to tonight's event, the Dean's Office at the Asper School of Business, the Commerce Students Association volunteers, TLP Productions and Arch Event, the RBC Convention Center, Indra's office, in particular Simi Shah and Lisa Kasnar, and Matt Sarmatiak and his team at Volvo for their special concierge services for our guests, and our very own Manitoba Business School Foundation team led by Anna Maria Topazzini. As you will note from the scrolling credits, it's quite a production and takes numerous dedicated staff and volunteers to make this possible, and a night to remember, all in support of the Asper School. Now the show isn't quite over yet. The bars will remain open over there and after the conclusion of tonight's programming, but first we have a special treat for you in store. Thank you all for attending, and it's been my pleasure to be your Masters of Ceremonies and host this evening. Thank you.